Konnichiwa. So, what have I been up to? Basically, I'm going to be doing a review of some of the things that I've seen lately. The first thing I'm going to be reviewing is the final Aiden show that was at Southampton recently. I know it's been a good few weeks now, actually, since that show was there. First of all, I want to say thank you to Crilly from Ashes to Angels for pretty much organising it and everything, so that was absolutely brilliant. I myself was a big fan of Aiden right back in the day, and I've been there since the days of Nightmare Anatomy and everything. I was lucky enough to see them play at Download in 2007, and they handled the midday metal crowd very, very well, actually. Will Francis was absolutely brilliant. Now, he seems to really love playing at Southampton, particularly at the Joiners. He's been there quite a few times as William Control, and I've seen him, I think, pretty much every time he's played there. Absolutely fantastic performer. He's absolutely amazing. He's so original and different, and I've got to say that the band he had with him performing the Aiden songs were absolutely superb. I mean, it's not the original lineup, but it didn't seem to matter. It didn't seem to bother anybody. There were people there of all ages, and what I really liked to see was the fact that there are some people that were far too young to even really remember Nightmare Anatomy when it first came out. And that was the album that they actually performed quite a lot of. Well, actually, they performed it in its entirety, because it's actually been 10 years since Nightmare Anatomy was released. Like I say, I remember it the first time round. It was an absolutely incredible album. It's something that I listened to over and over again. And so it was a real pleasure to see it performed in its entirety in such a small venue, but it didn't feel like a small venue. It felt like it was some kind of stadium. The way they handled it, it was absolutely incredible. There were mosh pits, there were people pogoing. It was an absolutely incredible experience, and I'm so glad that I went along and saw it for the final time. It was a perfect way to say goodbye to Aiden and to lay them to rest, really, after such a long time. And I'm quite excited to see what the future holds for William Control now. It was a brilliant, brilliant evening. I mean, it was the classic makeup and costumes for Will Francis. Everything was spot on, perfect. And even though it was midweek, it felt like it could have been a Friday or a Saturday night show. It was fantastic and thoroughly enjoyable. And a lot of my friends were there as well, which made it really special. So I'm really glad that I went along to that. That was an incredible experience. The other thing that I went along to see recently, sorry, I'm losing my voice as an office cold and I seem to have caught it yet again. Great. The other thing I went to see this week was Rocky Horror. Now, I've seen Rocky Horror live. This was my third time seeing it live. I've seen the film countless times before, and I must have told the story before about the fact that I've been watching the film ever since I was about 5 or 6 years old. Now, this was because my auntie, who's only about 10 years older than me, gave my dad a copy of it on VHS. Yes, I am that old. Roughly 25 years ago, and she gave it to him for his birthday because she knew that he'd been to see the show and loved it. She'd recently been to see the show and loved it, and I insisted on watching it. When my mum went out to some parents' evening thing, my dad put it on for us, knowing that we wouldn't understand the full content of it, but that's not what it was about for me at that age. I was impressed with the costumes and the music and everything like that. That's what really got to me, and the fact that you can do the time warp because it's got instructions on how to do it. So that's what appealed to me as a kid. And as I've got older, different things have appealed to me. And it's taught me that actually it's okay to be a bit of a weirdo, to be who you want to be. And that's kind of the message that I've taken from it my whole life. And that's why I love Rocky Horror so much. And I went along to see it this time, and it was full of people who'd been in like The X Factor and The Voice, and this guy who'd been in Emmerdale before and things like that. And I thought, I wonder what it's going to be like. So I didn't really know these people because they're not the sorts of shows that I normally watch. So I didn't really know who they were, so I was looking at it completely fresh. They were absolutely brilliant. Their comic timing was spot on. There was actually a comic who was playing the part of the narrator this time called Steve Punt, and he worked with Hugh Dennis for donkey's years and worked on Radio 4 with him and things like that, so I actually knew who he was. And I've got to say, he was spot on, and he knew when to leave pauses. There's a lot of audience participation. There's things you shout out at certain times in the script, and he knew exactly when to wait for those things to come up. It was absolutely brilliant. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. It was really fun. The only thing I would say is actually I think the audience let the show down a little bit. It was a Monday night and people were turning up, not even dressed up in the Rocky Horror garb. Even I turned up as Janet, and I'll hopefully put a picture up for you so you can see what I look like. Or it's my interpretation of Janet anyway. And there were a few people, don't get me wrong, there were a few people dressed up in the full lot. There were a few blokes that were dressed up as Frankenfurter and things like that, which were absolutely brilliant. Coming back to the show, I think the technical side of things was spot on. It was quite a simple set, which, from talking to my parents, was quite a simple set back in the day. They went to see it back in the late 70s. And it really just doesn't need anything overly complicated for the set, because all the focus should be on the characters and these sort of twisted relationships between the characters. And that's pretty much what we had this time. A very simple set, simple lighting. Everything was absolutely spot on perfect. I thought the delivery was brilliant. I've never heard Frankenfurter done with an American accent before, but I think it worked because they've landed in America. They're aliens who've landed in America trying to fit in with the local population. To have an English accent, maybe a little bit strange. Plus, you're never ever going to be able to top Tim Curry's performance. He was the original and best Frankenfurter. So I think the fact that the guy who performed it the other night did it in his own way was really important for the show, and I think really important for the characterisation, and I've got to hand it to him. He was absolutely fantastic. Thoroughly enjoyable. I will always go back and see that show because I love it so much. I really, really do, and I can't imagine ever not enjoying it. But it was very different to how I've seen it done before, and I really appreciated that. I like the little differences each time, and this show was no exception. It was superb. If you ever get a chance to go and see Rocky Horror, go and see it. You will never experience anything like it in theatre. Like I say, the audience participation, the fact everybody gets up and dances, the time warp, there's just no other show like it. It's absolutely incredible. Best show that you will ever see live, I guarantee it. So that's pretty much it for that. And just quickly, because I swore to myself I wouldn't make this video too long, and it's really long already, I might be reviewing some other stuff coming up. This week I'm going to be seeing Russell Howard live at the Theatre Royal in Winchester. Very small venue. He's about to go out on tour, and it's pretty much his last, almost like rehearsal session before he goes out on the final tour. So that should be quite good. The following week I'm going to see Fearless Vampire Killers in Southampton. Seen them so many times before, but I absolutely love them. So I will be going to see them again. And then possibly, I haven't got tickets for this yet, but most likely I will get tickets. I'm going to see Circus of Horrors in Southampton as well. So there's going to be a few things for me to review coming up. So I'll try and remember things while I'm there that I can then scribble down so that I can then make these pretty good videos. So until next time, sayonara.